Thank you for your patience and support. After being banned briefly in the United States, I'm back. Hey there, today I have a CGC unboxing, and in this video I'm going to unpack this shipment that I received from CGC after my books were sent to the Palm Beach presser for cleaning and pressing. I sent these books back in early to late November, so the turnaround time right now for me is about 2.5 months door to door, which is a little bit longer than it has been over the last couple of years, I would say. But I think they're still catching up with that bulk submission discount campaign that they ran, I guess. So I think they're getting a little bit caught up now, but more or less somewhere between like a 2 to 4 month turnaround, depending on services, whether it's modern versus vintage and so forth. I still feel like for me, that's very acceptable when you talk about the books getting shipped out, then Palm Beach presser receiving the books, him working his magic on them very, very quickly, getting them turned around and forwarded to CGC on my behalf, and then CGC sending these back to me. I'm okay with a 2 to 3 month wait. It's perfectly fine. And I just keep submissions queued. I have a couple of stacks ready to go to head to Palm Beach. He is typically either working on a submission or has just forwarded one to CGC. And then CGC will usually have one in process and one maybe in receiving or about to be received. And I just keep everything queued up so that I have a nice cycle of books leaving my possession and then being returned graded. This is one of those submissions. It's a really nice assortment of books, some recently unboxed books that I had maybe taken a chance on, talking about a process, whether it be Mile High Comics, Infinity Comics, or now My Comic Shop, whatever the process may be, trying to very quickly identify candidates that would benefit from a clean and press and grading. And I really have kind of a last in, first out kind of process at this point. So instead of unpacking an order and finding a book that would be worthy of me investing more time and resources on it, but packing it away in my personal collection somewhere, I immediately put it in a different queue and get it ready to get sent off for cleaning and pressing. As always, I have not looked at the grades beforehand. I love to be surprised. I love to let you look at the grade for just a moment before I see it, because for me, that's part of the thrill. It's part of the fun. So let me go ahead and get this unpacked and show you which books I sent off for cleaning and pressing, where I'll tell you what my original grade estimate was, what Palm Beach's grade estimate was, and lastly, the final grade that CGC gave each book. Okay, I'm ready to go. I think I figured out a way to do this. So each of these oversized kind of air bubble containers comes in two pieces. So I just took the bottom half off, if you will, so I can only see the back bottom of the slabs. So then I can go ahead and hide the grade and show it to you first. And then I've got my notes here from Palm Beach Presser so that I can see what his estimate was on the final grade, along with his grader notes. Should be 15 slabs in total, so let's get to it. Okay, so the first book we have is Ghost Number 0. This is from Dark Horse Comics, and this is from 2012, and I bought it because of the Jenny Frison cover art. I love to do this where if there's a particular artist that I follow, especially if it's a cover artist, I can go back through various comic book databases and find a lot of their early art. I know a lot of speculators try and do that, where they feel like they're the only ones that knew that Frison did a cover before 2020 somewhere, and it's super cool. It's all well known. There's just lists available, databases that you can query. There's a video somewhere in my back catalog that actually shows you how I search for cover artists. So I'll do this, and I remember finding this one on Mile High Comics for, I want to say it was either just a little over cover price or maybe double cover price. Very, very affordable. Easy to find book, but wanted to get this submitted to CGC, and I think it just needed a little bit of a press to push it over And my original estimate for this book was 9.6. And looking at Palm Beach's notes, he had no grader notes other than 9.8 probable. So let's see what the grade is for Ghost number 0. And it's a 9.8. Great start. This book looks really nice, super sharp, getting that 9.8. And what I'm doing is I'm essentially building up a nice assortment of Frizen graded 9/8s that I can feel confident in sending to CGC the next time she has a Signature Series event. She's participated in Signature Series events before, so I imagine she should be available hopefully early on in 2025 for another event, as I would love to get some of these books back with her signature. Next one up is Batman 609. This is one that, if you have a process that's working, why not stick with it? This is a book that I regularly find on Mile High Comics. I think it's there right now, and it's always something that shows up as a value pickup for the price and the likelihood that you'll get it in high grade. It ends up working out. Maybe not as much as Vanguard Illustrated number 2, but certainly something that I like to pick up as often as I can, and especially with Hush 2 right around the corner. So we'll have to see if some of these books from the original Hush storyline will pick up in value and attention. And I had originally estimated this as a 9.6, just needing a little bit of a press to push it up into that 9.8 contention, just like Ghost number 0. Palm Beach did not provide any grader notes other than 9.8 probable. And Batman 609 from 2003 got 9.8. Excellent. So we'll have to see how Hush 2 turns out. This is the first appearance of Tommy Elliott, the secret identity of Hush. And this kicks off that great storyline by Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee. Okay, great start. The next one we have is X-Men number 24. This is from 1993. I remembered unboxing these not too long ago. It was a Mile High Comics order I placed that I think had pretty much all of these books in it. Not the entire submission, but so far these first 3. And this was another one along with Ghost Zero that I thought was really affordable. I still get a lot of let's just say negative comments. I was going to say hate, but there's some negativity I get on my videos whenever I unpack a Mile High Comics order, where people are saying it's crazy that you say you get value from ordering from them, and I haven't ordered from them in years. It's way too expensive, and I just kind of shrug and I just move along. I'm really, actually, honestly happy that there's a lot of negativity, because that just allows me to keep moving forward with my process. X-Men 24 to me, when I unboxed it and graded it, was a 9.6, and it feels like it's falling under the same category, close to a 9.8, but needing a little bit of a press, some love and attention from Palm Beach Presser. He had no grader notes other than 9.8 probable. This was one, too, that I said doesn't have much value unless it is a 9.8, but definitely a low-risk, high-reward type of pickup. These are my favorite books to pick up, and X-Men 24 from 1993 got a 9.8. So it ends up working out. Great Andy Kubert cover, great callback to the early 90s, tie-in with the Disney Plus X-Men animated series, and love being able to get it at a really, really great price, and trusting the source and certainly trusting Palm Beach Presser to do a nice job on these books. So thank you, Palm Beach, for turning these super expensive Mile High Comics books into 9.8 gems. Next is Spectacular Spider-Man at number 100. This is from 1985. Also from, I think, the same order. Now I got to look back at my notes. I might have sent the entire order to Palm Beach. That would be kind of funny. Now this one will be tough because I graded it as a 9.4, and his estimate is 9.4. Well, it's 9.6/9.4. He noted there's some wear at the spine corners and some color loss. So this might not be that slam dunk easy Mile High Comics pickup that turns into a 9.8. But love these Spectacular Spider-Man books with Spot, where Spot makes his first appearance and then ends up being part of a 3-issue story arc. And this being an anniversary issue of Spectacular Spider-Man, back when these were hitting the shelves and hitting the spinner racks, I was buying all 3 Spider-Man titles and loving all 3. So let's take a look at the final grade for Spectacular Spider-Man number 100 from 1985, and it got a 9.8. All right, so moving up from 9.4, the other ones I had estimated 9.6, and I felt like they just were not close enough for me to send in straight away or in a 9.8 pre-screen. This one, I'm trying to take a look at the notes that he gave it, where at the spine corners and color loss. I can see on the top corner it having some issue there. Actually, yeah, both spine corners have just the slightest of wear, but looks super clean, sharp everywhere else. CGC might have given a little bit of forgiveness on the corners. The spine looks great. And this one's tough. I think it could go either way, 9.6 or 9.8, and ended up getting the 9.8 on this one. If I'm a grader, I'm kind of speculating on what the process is that if it is borderline, I'm going to go ahead and give it the better grade if everything else truly is spectacular, pun intended. This one, the color, the purples are rich, and the spine looks very, very tight. I think with just me eyeballing the spine, I see one tiny hairline tick. Other than that, it looks great. The staples look brand new. There's not, sometimes you see wear around the staples. I don't see any color loss near the staples. So that's where I'm trying to point out a lot of the positives with the book that would maybe push the book into a 9.8 category. And of course, this is after the fact. As I'm grading these, I'm being very picky in particular. And the reason I gave it a 9.4 was because of the corners and probably that one tick that I saw. But I can see why CGC would go ahead and give this a 9.8 as well. So it could go either way. Some of it's very systematic, some of it's calculated, and there is an element of risk and gambling with all of this too. But regardless, it ended up with the 9.8. All right, so far so good. Let's keep it going with New Mutants Special Edition number 1. Man, I just love a book like this so much, where it's hitting on those mid-1980s Art Adams, just sort of mind-blowing emotional experiences that I had with comics, like when I was reading those Bronze and early Copper Age comics, and then opened up comics that were illustrated by really just a small handful of artists that were truly like mind-blowing. I remember the experience vividly of opening up my first Todd McFarlane comic book, my first Art Adams comic book, and it was just on another level. This was your modern age version of, you know, what a Neil Adams experience was on Batman, John Byrne on X-Men, and this was that next wave of just great creators hitting me as a collector and being just so impressionable in my youth, and just love everything about a book like this, especially because this isn't a very expensive book, but wanted to get this to add to my Art Adams collection. And looking at the grader notes, I gave this a 9.6. Palm Beach said that there's very light wear at the spine corners, but he said 9.8 is probable. Let's see, New Mutants Special Edition number 1 from 1985, getting a 9.8. Absolutely wonderful. Gosh, this is great. Written by Claremont, Art Adams, and Terry Austin. Not only doing the cover, the interiors, and then also the back cover. Just amazing. Just takes me back. And with all of the like cover art and cover art exclusive hype around like a Marvel series like Magic, you know, here is Art Adams' version of Magic with the bangs and the black and yellow costume, and that's really how I remember her. And then of course Warlock. It's just absolutely perfect for him to draw. So love this. Really an under the radar New Mutants issue, but again, Claremont, Adams, Austin, just awesome. So happy to get that one also in a 9.8. So we are continuing on a nice streak here, and we'll keep it going with the Punisher Limited Series number 2 from 1986. And of course, I said we're going to keep this streak going, like I'm super confident. These Punisher Limited Series books have been a little bit of a nemesis for me. I have completed the set of Wolverine 1 through 4, the limited series, not all in a 9.8, but where I basically finished them getting the signatures of Claremont, Miller, and Rubinstein on them. And to me, unless I really want to chase 9/8 on all four, I have finished that to the best of my ability anyway, and I'm very satisfied, and I love that. I'm trying to do the same with some of these other series, like the Punisher Limited series. It's 5 issues, but these have been really tough, and I do get a number of these from Mile High. I'd won a couple from Infinity Comics, trying to get as high grade as possible, and these will typically come back in maybe a 9.2 or 9.4. Now, this one was kind of interesting to me, and I may have been too harsh on it, but I gave this one an 8.0. Probably a lot of creasing. I wouldn't typically send in an 8.0 for cleaning and pressing and grading unless it was a lot of like just folds, waves, things that wouldn't break color, but there was enough wrong with this book that I gave it an 8.0. And of course, Palm Beach, rightfully so, gave the most notes on this issue. So I'll go ahead and read them off real quick. One color break on the back spine below the bottom staple. A really bad jagged cut of the back edges. The grade does not take a deduction for a jagged cut. Hopefully CGC doesn't either. And he's talking about it just being completely miscut. That could be a little bit why I had graded it so harshly too, because I was maybe worried about the manufacturing related issues of the book. So this will be a little bit of an interesting experiment to see The Punisher from 1985, limited series, issue 2 of 5, and it got a 9.8. All right, so much for that setup of it being my nemesis. Another situation where it's taken me back to a particular artist and it just kind of flooring me, where I had to maybe really think about the art, the story, the experience. And Mike Zeck, absolutely one of those where I wasn't even sure what I was looking at. Is it a painted cover? Is it some sort of computer generated cover? And thinking about the impact that Zeck had right there in the mid-'80s. You've got the Punisher, Secret Wars, a nice run on Captain America. Just changed my perspective on comics and comic book art. So here we go. This is the first 9/8 of the 5-issue series, and would love to get Zeck and John Beatty's signature on something like this. So just like the Wolverine Limited series, holding on to those, hoping for a signature series event. And this will be right in that stack of books to send to them to get signed. So super awesome. Thank you, Palm Beach Presser. I know this one was a little bit of an odd one, but very interesting that it came all the way back a 9.8. Punisher number 2 from 1985. Next up is, okay, we're really trying to push this streak here. Tomb of Dracula number 46. This is from 1976. So we're going back 9 years before The Punisher to see how far we can keep this 9/8 streak going, or will this put an end to this early run. I had originally estimated this book as a 9.2. Palm Beach gave it a 9.6 tilde, and he noted one small color break on the spine, slight discoloration on the back cover. So, with all of these, I'm looking for the grade bump. Of course, I am going for the 9/8. That's a big reason why I do it. But what I am confident in is my ability to assess a book and give it a grade, and then Palm Beach's ability to improve on that grade. So to me, without seeing the grade yet, it's one of those situations where I'd estimated a 9.2. He's already estimating a 9.6 and sees improvement after his work. Let's see what CGC says. Tomb of Dracula number 46 from 1976, getting the 9.6. So it's exactly what Palm Beach estimated, but getting that bump up from a 9.2, and I can see it right in the middle of the book. There is a color breaking tick right here on the edge, on the spine, and that's what he noted in his notes, and then he talked about the slight discoloration on the back cover, which is probably what brought it down. This is an off-white to white pages as well. Everything else so far had been white pages, so I think that's probably some of the discoloration. But I will take a 9.6 on a book like this all day. We're coming up on this being almost 50 years old. So to get this encased, preserved as a 9.6, I'll take it. I love it. All right, so it did interrupt the streak of 9/8, but I think that's more than acceptable on a book like that. The next one we have is X-Men number 12. This is from 2022. Speaking of Art Adams, this is one of those Art Adams variant covers. He's doing a lot of these. I don't want to say all of them are valuable, but because it's Adams, they're all desirable, varying degrees, I would say. But this one was fun for me because of the attention that the Rogue Savage Land version of the character is getting these days. Tons of variants, and I feel like when there's so much attention, it's like you could just go back 2 to 3 years and find a similar variant and get it at a good price, relatively speaking to what's available and out there today that's getting pushed. This to me was a 9.4 that was in need of a press, and there are no greater notes on this one. Palm Beach estimates a 9.8 probable. On X-Men number 12, the Adams variant cover from August of 2022, and it got a 9.8. Beautiful. Just a beautiful cover. I love the dinosaur here in the background with his eye peeking through the X-Men logo. So that's a lot of fun. Just an absolutely gorgeous, great cover here with Savage Land Rogue on the cover. Love this one. A great example of just, when everybody's looking in one direction, go ahead and take a look in another. And it helps balance things out too. I mean, every purchase that you're making, every decision that you're making to grade a book, you're in effect influencing the market too. And if you're buying from a store and you're paying a certain price, it's letting the store know that you're interested in the book, and they can make this, more informed decisions of books that they want to buy and they want to keep in stock. And it helps just keep the hobby going. And I think about that too when I'm looking for books and I'm looking at places to buy books, that it's not always about the latest and greatest store exclusive, because you'll see a lot of those store exclusives a year later, they're all like heavily marked down. And it's great to just go back and get an incentive like this. Love it. X-Men 12 from 2022. All right. Let's start a new streak of 9.8s here. Hopefully with this one. This is X Factor number 6 from 1986. Speaking of X-Men, speaking of New Mutants, the X-Men animated series, Apocalypse plays such a huge role in the X-Men lore, and this is his first appearance. Yes, I think technically it's a floating head cover appearance, but as many people have argued with me, that a floating head does count as a first appearance, even if it does not include any other body parts. So this does fall into the floating head category. The first appearance of Apocalypse, first cover appearance of Apocalypse. Kind of got fixated on this and bought a couple of copies, as well as his first cameo in X Factor number 5, and really liked the condition and the possibilities with this copy. I had given it an estimate of a 9.2. Palm Beach says that there are several very small color breaks on the spine, and he estimates a 9.6 plus. So that's kind of what I'm leaning towards, especially after seeing The Tomb of Dracula. It didn't have any other spine ticks on it other than that one that was right in the center, and it was probably of the 1/8 to 1/4 inch variety. I mean, you can't miss it. It's right there, and it got a 9.6. So if this one had several, it's going to be tough. But let's see here. X Factor number 6, and that's exactly what it got. A 9.6. 9.6 white pages. Still a great key, and I can definitely see already a few of the ticks that Palm Beach is talking about. But the book looks so good otherwise. So thank you for the great work on this, Palm Beach Presser. Back looks just super white, clean. Everything looks great. It's just, I think it had one too many color breaking ticks. I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7, or maybe 4 or 5 color breaking, and a couple that just are ticks that are still there, but they're so tiny. And I'm sitting here and angling the book in the light just to see it. If I'm just looking at the book like this, I can count a couple. And I think that's part of the grading standards too, is you want to be very methodical and scientific about the grading, and then you also want to compare it to kind of like a quick glance, naked eye kind of look, like the appeal of the book. And so you could make the argument, if I just told you it had 5 to 7 color breaking ticks, that sounds more like an 8 or an 8.5. I'm describing very minuscule ticks that even just looking at it right here, you can't really see them, and I understand this is on video, but even still, if I brought up a Silver Age book that was graded like a 4 and held it up, you'd be able to see it. So some of it is just the eye appeal and the general what the naked eye can and can't see. And I can definitely see a few problems with the book, and then if I zoom in, I see a couple more. And I'm just kind of trying to figure out, like, why didn't this book get a 9.2, something like that. But a 9.6 on a book that I think is an example of a couple of things. Certainly the process of moving books from a trusted source like Mile High Comics and getting those books moved into the 9.8 range, but then also looking at books like this where I was looking at Infinity Comics and some other sources to try and pick up keys and shifting more towards keys. And I think you'll see this more in my CGC unboxings for this year, where there will be more and more keys and maybe fewer books like Ghost Number Zero getting into the mix, as I really tried to focus my auction winnings and my purchases on more substantial and I would say like easier to recognize types of books like this. But very cool. My first graded copy, the first appearance of Apocalypse on X Factor number 6. Next is Wolverine number 27. This is from 1990. This is a super, super awesome Jim Lee cover of Wolverine. Absolutely love this. I made the mistake, I don't want to be too critical of myself, but I sent in a copy, and this was maybe a year or two ago, and ordered the custom label and got super hyped because I wanted to get the book graded, and it came back a 9.6. Great book, still really nice, love the custom label, but at that point was like, okay, I'm determined to get this one in a 9.8. Love this one, this Wolverine 27 from 1990. So you got the 90s Jim Lee Wolverine. And this image was used on some video game art and reused in other places, probably posters, I imagine probably Marvel promos. It's just such a cool perspective and angle on the character. I had given this book a 9.4, but really thought it was a strong candidate for cleaning and pressing to get it into the 9.8 range. Palm Beach says there's light wear at the spine corners with a minor color rub, but he says a 9.8 is possible. Let's see if it did get the 9.8. Wolverine number 27. I got a 9.6. All right, so this one's going to be stubborn. Another 9.6 of Wolverine 27. I still can't say enough about it. I think it's just wonderful. Great early issue in Wolverine's first solo series. But this is probably one that I'll be chasing to get that 9.8. Didn't quite get there on this, but still getting the grade bump up from my 9.4 estimate. All right, got 5 more to go. This one is Werewolf by Night, number 29. This is from 1975, so this counts as a modern book. That is the cutoff for CGC. It's either pre-1975 for vintage or 1975 and up for modern. For as long as I've been sending books to CGC, that's been the cutoff. I imagine at some point they'll probably change that. That's probably a way for them to make a few extra bucks too if they shift the vintage tier up to, say, pre-1980, something like that, as it is a little bit more expensive to grade vintage. These books, again, just like Tomb of Dracula, I keep my eye on certain titles and certain issue runs on Mile High Comics so that when they come in, and if they are within a certain price, these non-keys, they're kind of generically priced on Mile High Comics, so that's something I just keep my eye out for. I had estimated originally that this was a 9.4. Palm Beach noted there's some light spine corner wear at the bottom, but he did give it a 9.8/9.6. So let's see, Werewolf by Night, number 29. Got a 9.8. That's huge. That is awesome. Man, this one is so tough, too, when you're thinking about this age. This is a book that in a few months, it is going to be 50 years old. A 9.8, looking at just everything that could go wrong with a book like this in terms of the cover design, with the all black ink background behind the trade. And it is slightly miswrapped, which I think helped protect the spine. But wow, this is something else. Gil Kane, Klaus Janson on cover art, Don Perlin interiors, Doug Mensch on the story. Wow. Thank you, Palm Beach, for your work on this one. This is tremendous. God, it looks so good. 9.8 white pages, too, on this. Wow. Okay. I'm going to have to start covering up these 9.6s here. Let's do that. Okay. Let's keep it going. Another book that just barely missed that vintage tier cutoff. This is Creatures on the Loose number 34. This is from March 1975. So just 3 months after that cutoff. And I learned about this book a while ago. This is the first George Perez art at Marvel Comics. So a little bit of significance here if you're chasing books done by a specific creator and you love George Perez like all of us do, then this is of some interest. I had estimated this was a 9.0, but I did feel like it was worthy of a press. I didn't know if it would get all the way up to a 9.8. Palm Beach said there are color breaks on the spine. So looking at that, like going through and now taking this data, looking at the results, this is what I love to do as well. I love to really digest this information and learn from it. So he is saying 9.6/9.4. I'm leaning towards 9.6, although jumping from a 9 to a 9.6 on a book like this from 1975, I think it's a little bit tougher, even though that Punisher book to me jumped from an 8 to a 9.8. It's 10 years younger than this book, so we'll have to see here. I'm very curious to see what this book gets. Creatures on the Loose from 1975, and it, whoa, got a 9.0. Okay, well, we can be wrong every once in a while. I think that's okay. But yeah, so I think just too many color breaks. That's unfortunate. And I'm also seeing a dog here up on the top right corner as well. Oh, that's a bummer. Well, it did get white pages, so it does look nice. But yeah, 9.0 for the amount I paid for the book, going through the process, sending to CGC. If I was predicting a 9.0 as an outcome, this is not a book that I would send through that process. I would have kept it raw. But as a whole, I really can't be upset with this submission. I kind of laugh just because it is, in a weird way, when you're dealing with, I would say, books that have turned out the way you've expected or exceeded expectations, that it's okay to be humbled a little bit on a 9.0. The other thing I'll say is it definitely matches the blue label quite well. Just reaching for some nice things to say about a 9.0. Okay, and there's something else too I'd like to say that I really, hopefully this is known, but I really only trust one person with my Man-Thing, and that is Palm Beach Presser. And I sent him Man-Thing number 1 from 1979, a book that I picked up from Mile High Comics many times, and I've sent to Palm Beach Presser many times and off to CGC. And I've been very lucky and fortunate to get some 9.8s out of this process. And you get a lot of advice in comic book collecting. A lot of people say, buy what you love. Don't give in to FOMO. One of the things I love to say is buy what you know. To me, it provides a lot of comfort, a lot of experience. You build on that experience. And this is certainly a buy what you know situation for me. I had given this book a 9.4. Palm Beach said there's wear at the spine corners with fibers and small pieces missing. And he estimated a 9.4 plus. So I'll be curious to see if this got a grade bump up from a 9.4 or if it got that 9.4 straight away from CGC. But let's see, after Palm Beach had his way with my Man-Thing, let's see what grade it got. And it got a 9.6, white pages. And I think that's fair, especially for the notes and the things that Palm Beach saw with it. I can see just some of the slight discoloration around the edges. And it's probably just too much. The back corner has a little bit as well. To me, this one, it could have gone either way. But yeah, I think he's talking about the top, both top and bottom corner have what he's talking about, where some of those paper fibers are missing. But I will say, I think I've seen 9.8s in this condition as well. So this was probably borderline, but didn't really pass the eye appeal that maybe some of the other books had. So my Man-Thing was just a little bit more worn out than usual. But still a very, very nice grade. Book from 1979. Getting a 9.6. Okay, 2 more to go. And the next one is Flaming Carrot number 27 from 1991. This is from Dark Horse Comics. This was another one, if you think about what I said at the beginning of the video with Jenny Frison and Ghost number 0, this is kind of what I did as well, where I think I was watching Como Comics and he was going through like a countdown. The theme was kind of the same as like, let's find some obscure comics done by some very well-known artists. And this is a Flaming Carrot Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles crossover cover by Todd McFarlane. So if you're a McFarlane collector, you're chasing his books, this was one that I had never thought of, and sure enough, when I started querying my lists for McFarlane books, this was on there. He got cover art credit for this. And I went to Mile High Comics. I saw that there was an affordable copy. When I got it back, I had estimated that it was a 9.4, but that it could be improved with a press. So I sent it to Palm Beach Presser. He got it, pressed it, and said that there is some minor wear at the spine corners, but he's saying a 9.8 is possible on this issue of Flaming Carrot from 1991, number 27, and it got a 9.6. But still, there it is right there, the McFarlane scroll signature. Definitely a fun book. Little bummed on this one, because I thought it had a chance, but I can see a little bit of the minor wear that Palm Beach is talking about, and it's on both corners. You can see it more from the back, especially on the bottom. Actually, both the top and bottom, it just has a little bit too much wear. The book looks super strong elsewhere, but if I want to try it again, I do know where to find this one. But a little bit of a bummer there. So maybe on this second half, not quite as strong as the first half of books when I was on that hot streak of 9/8. But let's finish it off here. Lobo #1 from 1990. This was a book that I picked up, I guess, at the right time, because since the time I picked it up and I sent this off for cleaning, pressing, and grading, it was announced that Jason Momoa was going to portray Lobo in live action at some point. Like, he had signed on officially. It wasn't like a fan casting. I think he came right out and was like, I collect comics, I love Lobo, I'd love to play this character. And now that the DC universe is kind of taking a turn where we have the new Superman movie, kind of like that first movie as part of the James Gunn DC universe, I would imagine that Lobo will be kind of in production here within the next couple of years. So I ended up picking up his first appearance, and I've always loved this book. This Simon Bisley cover is just awesome, and wanted to get this one cleaned up and graded. So this last book in this submission, I graded a 9.2. Palm Beach Presser has no notes other than 9.8 probable. Let's see if he's right about this. Lobo #1 from 1990. All right. Great ending. 9.8 white pages on this. Oh, I love this. This is great. So this is going to hopefully roll with all the Lobo hype moving forward. But again, this Simon Bisley cover from the moment it came out in 1990 is just one of those that you see it, you know it, you love it. It's just awesome. First issue, only 99 cents. Fantastic. Great work. Thank you, Palm Beach Presser, for all of your hard work on this submission. Really happy with these results. Got some interesting results, some things to think about, some things to learn from. But I would say 14 out of 15 for me were great improvements. That one Creatures on the Loose book, I originally estimated a 9.0. It got a 9.0 after the process. So I'll probably take that book and study it a little bit. And that's part of the fun, too, is going through and seeing which books missed. If you're doing like a pre-screen and they get rejected, like I want to see those books, because to me it's actual evidence and proof of something that I made a mistake on, that I missed, and so I want to learn from that and understand it so that when I see it next time, I will skip over that book and send a different book in through the process. But love it. Thank you, Palm Beach Presser. Thank you, CGC, for returning my books safely to me. Really appreciate it, and thank you for watching. Happy collecting, and see you next time.